generally two types of illegal mining. The opportunistic mining, it's usually 2 or 3 people going in, usually on the coal side. But the biggest issue is the underground mining, the illegal mining that is syndicated, that's organized, that impacts on both existing operations and abandoned operations.
Yeah. So to understand how this illegal mining works and the zama-zamas, as they've been sort of dubbed, is it that they work for these syndicates that go into these, is it derelict mines? Is it, what type of mines do they target?
There's 2 types. There's existing operations, so mines where lawful miners are mining and the illegal miners or zama-zamas work alongside or in the same workings as existing operations. And then you have the typical abandoned operations where mining has stopped years and years ago, where people access typically the gold mining side because it's a commodity which is easily extractable, easily processed and easily sold.
Yeah, and that's costing our country dearly because I was reading there was, I think it was a 2008 study showing that we lost in that year in the gold sector around about 5.2 billion rand in revenue due to this. Obviously 2008 and now, long gap between that. Is it hard to ascertain how much we're losing?
It's extremely hard to ascertain exactly how much is being lost to the industry, but those figures are probably correct, and as you say, those are old figures, and the problem is increasing, so the amounts are increasing.
Sure. No, it's very, very scary. These aren't sporadic incidents, are they? Or are they?
They're not sporadic. It's very systemized, it's syndicated, it's groups, and it's very important to accept that these are organized. The difficulty is obviously that it's exploitative, so communities, very poor communities, usually support the miners or provide the miners and then extracting in very dangerous circumstances, selling to the syndicates who really make the money.
Do these miners that work under these harsh conditions and, I mean, their lives are under threat by doing what they're doing, obviously they get more money out of this. Is that what's coaxing them into this than actually working legally for a mine?
It's not necessarily that comparison. People don't have jobs. There's a lot of retrenchments going on. So it's a community issue. It's a socio-economic issue. It's driving people towards this, to the illegal mining. And as I said, in most cases, it's very exploitative because the people doing the dangerous work are not necessarily the people making the money or serious money out of it.
What policies are there regarding abandoned mines?
The Mine Health and Safety Act requires the owner, the old owner of the mine, to take reasonable steps to protect it. So to put, for example, concrete slabs over the shafts, etc., and to continuously look after the old shafts. But they can only do so much. The people doing the illegal mining are very, very organized, have access to equipment, dig their own shafts alongside the old shafts and access the old workings through those means.
And that's what they were saying what happened at this incident that we were reporting on the weekend, is that they had dug a shaft, a new shaft, and that one had collapsed, or it had been sabotaged by another gang, because I mean that's another dimension to all of this, is there's actually gang activity that happens with these illegal miners.
Correct. It's rival gangs, it's rival syndicates that are involved in that process, and yes, it's extremely dangerous. You don't know whether the shaft that's being dug is sabotaged or whether it was rain. We've had a lot of rain, but it's very difficult to tell. But yes, you're quite correct. There are issues with regard to rival syndicates and gangs.
Well, I mean, obviously it's common knowledge and people do know that there are still resources left in abandoned mines. What is the best way to deal with this type of an issue of illegal miners going in and trying to get these resources out? It's
a big socio-economic question, and it's something that the country is grappling with, but on a day-to-day basis it requires stakeholder intervention. In other words, it's a multidisciplinary, multi-stakeholder approach. So the Department of Mineral Resources, the South African Police Services and the old owners and the industry as a whole needs to tackle this together.
Yeah. It's quite a difficult situation for rescue operations, because you've got illegal miners down there, that lives are at risk, but that they are doing something that is against the Constitution and it's against the law. But at the end of the day, I suppose the miners don't want to come out because they know they're going to get arrested. Is it up to them whether this rescue operation continues, or is it up to the the mine rescuers?
The illegal miners apparently are fearful of being arrested on their return to surface, and I think that's a justified fear because that's what happens. and it happens regularly. The primary difficulty is encouraging and understanding why people do this and dealing with it on that level. In other words, why do people go underground in very dangerous circumstances when it is so dangerous? And it is dangerous not only for the illegal miners, but also for the existing miners. As I mentioned, mining next to and alongside miners that are mining legally, it impacts on ventilation, working areas, electricity, etc. So it really is a complex problem that requires everybody's involvement.
Are these mines, these abandoned mines, are they guarded? Is there security at them?
In many cases, no, because some of them are extremely old. Okay. But again, in many cases, there are security forces. But the syndicates are heavily armed. The sad thing is, in many cases, and you've mentioned it previously, where the illegal miners actually end up fatally injured underground. We've had many instances where lawful miners go in to retrieve bodies and have ended up in accidents and fatal accidents themselves. So it's a very, very tricky situation about who goes in, when they go in, and who comes out because of that.
Just finally, where does this leave the environmental laws on mine health and safety?
As I said, the Mine Health and Safety Act actually requires the old mine owners to be responsible until such time as a closure certificate is issued. Closure certificate is issued through the environmental processes to say we're okay now with what you've done environmentally. But there are so many old abandoned mines in South Africa that the Department of Mineral Resources is responsible for. And it's a joint effort that is required both from the industry and from the Department of Mineral Resources.
How many are we looking at approximately? Any
It's impossible to quantify. It's simply impossible to quantify how many old operations there still are, and accesses to the underground workings which are no longer appear on plans and maps, etc. And it's by chance that often these accesses are found by communities in and around these operations.
Sure, it's an underground world in every sense of the word.
It is indeed.
And we perhaps don't know much about. Warren Beech, thank you for talking to us, the head of mining at Hogan Lovells SA. Just talking about illegal miners, zamas here in South Africa that are operating, costing the economy and the country billions annually with this illegal mining of resources at abandoned mines and fully working mines as well. So an issue that seriously needs to be tackled. All right, let's get you a weather update. Here's Andile waiting. It's almost 10 to 9.